welcome back to Buns in the Oven. I'm Dominic. Today's topic is about feeding baby, when you first start feeding baby. So we're gonna go through some information and hopefully that can help you. If we don't answer all your questions, we have staff here at the center, St. Mary's Center, that will be more than happy to answer your questions. So just give us a call if you have any question to clarify things up for you. Some of the information that we have came from the Ottawa Public Health website, Feeding Your Baby, and you can definitely go on their website and look at that, and we'll try to make this information fun. So the first thing to remember is that feeding your baby is about nutrition and helping your baby's development, because they are going to go from liquid milk or formula to be introduced to solid food. So it's about supporting the child growth and their development. It's about creating a positive bond with your baby. Also about developing some good healthy eating habits that are gonna last their whole life. This is where you're putting the base for the future, for the life. We're all trying here to encourage this child to be curious and willing to try new food and feed themselves. Hey. All right, let's see what we've got. Okay, what's wrong with this picture? We have baby here ready to be fed. First of all, this piece of fruit is way too big. We need to cut this up. Then there's juice. The baby should not be drinking juice. It's too much sugar, and it's gonna be, his stomach gonna be filled with this, and he won't be interested or want to eat any of the solids. Then we can also sometimes say butter, salt. Baby does not need any more of those. I'm not gonna throw that. And when you're gonna be feeding your baby, avoid distraction. Avoid having a screen, a toy, a book. You wanna take that time to interact with your child. Stay away from distraction. Ew. Wait. What are the signs that your baby is ready to eat, to be fed? First of all, the baby has to be able to sit up in a chair. Then the baby has to be able to hold their head up. Maybe you should be able to open your mouth first. Baby should be able to open their mouth and be interested in the food, or turn away. So we're making sure here that the baby has all the development to be guiding the feeding. The child is gonna tell you when they're ready and when they're full. Turning the head tells you, I had enough.
So you're gonna start feeding your baby at 6 months. Things you need to know. You wanna start with iron-rich foods. So this is a baby cereal, and all baby cereals are enriched with iron. This is specifically just oats. So oats or rice, I can't remember the other one, but there's another one and it's just the oats, right? It's not a mix of different things, it's only one thing at a time. So iron rich there. Also meats, so we have ground beef here. It's ground beef, and that is also a good source of iron. Eggs, chicken, meat substitutes, that kind of thing. Anything that's really iron rich is what you want to start with. And you want to start with one thing at a time, and you don't want to feed, like they're not eating a whole meal like you are, right? They're only little tummies, and this isn't a main meal for them. You're still using breast milk or formula as their main source of nutrition. This is just to get them used to eating foods. Yeah, that's good. Just making sure. There we go. So this is just some cooked up ground beef, obviously to temperature. You always test the temperature, make sure it's safe. So we're gonna do like 1 or 2 teaspoons. You probably have to put a little bit more in it for it to actually grind up properly, but you can always save it for later, like do a batch and then save it for the next day, because you're going to be feeding the same food for a couple of days at a time and not switching all the time. So then in case there's a reaction to something, you know exactly what gave it to them. So this goes on first, right? Yeah. So we're just gonna grind it. We don't necessarily need it into like toothpaste consistency. We want a little bit of texture because again, baby's learning how to eat. Here we go. Okay. Check. A little bit more. Although this texture would be still okay. I'm just gonna go. See if I can show you sort of the texture is. So kind of like that.
And you could always add a little bit of more of the juice of the meat just to thin it out a little bit.
Yeah, try to add a little bit of the juice. If anything, water. Don't add salt, butter, broth, or anything like that. Just water. They're not. It's yeah. So
right.
this is probably about the amount that you're going to start with. It's not a lot. It doesn't look like a lot, but their tummies are very tiny.
When you're preparing vegetables for your babies, cook it sufficiently so that it's really easy to mash up. So you can just do it with a fork. And if you need to, you can add a little bit of the cooking water and mash it up again, just to have good consistency. If you find any thread, like fibrous things, just remove it from the food. And so do that again, like with carrots, the same thing. Just cook them enough so that you're able to squish them with your fork.
Okay, so fruits and vegetables. We have a peach here. This part is mashed already. So this would be good for the 6 month, right? Not that one. We're gonna put that one over there. So this would be the 6 month where they're just trying, and you notice it's not a pulp, right? There's still some texture in it. That's gonna help them. And then when they get older, we're going to move on to more sizes like this, right? Where it's easy for them to use their hands.
Yeah, it starts to be finger food there.
Yeah, then it's finger food and they can bring it to their own mouth and they can explore and play with it. So one of the important things that I had previously mentioned where you're starting one thing at a time, it's especially important when you're starting with foods that are high allergens. So like dairy or eggs or nuts or even soy. You want to make sure that you're really watching to make sure your baby doesn't have a reaction. So waiting a couple of days and not giving them new foods that they haven't tried yet. So you're looking for any kind of uncomfortable, baby will be uncomfortable or rashes or any signs of an allergic reaction. But they don't necessarily recommend not giving them, which is a myth. You can give your baby peanut butter and you can give your baby eggs, and it's very good for them. Well, I mean, like, it's one of the things that you brought up, right? Okay, so Dom brought up poop. Yes, when you start feeding your baby different foods, it's going to change. It's going to start to smell different, and it's going to have a different texture. I know that's, I don't know if I should use that word, so I'm about to use textures to describe foods for your baby. But yes, things are going to change. Don't be alarmed, obviously, unless diarrhea is a bad one. But if your baby gets diarrhea, then yeah, there's something wrong. But like, it's going to start to smell bad. Just so you know, you can tell the difference between a breastfed or formula-fed baby and one who's started meat. Farts are going to stink, friends. Oh, okay. So 7 to 8 months. As I sort of showed you the little bits of food when you start 7 to 8 months. So 7 to 8 months is when your baby can take bites and pick up food and actually bring it to their mouth and drink from an open cup. They're going to spill, just so you know. Meal times are messy, and that's totally fine. It's an exploration between you and your baby. Mess is totally fine. So one of the differences that you're going to notice as 7 to 8 months, which is a rough timeline as a side note, your baby will give you the signs that you need, is you can start different cereals. So this one, multigrain, yogurt, and raspberry, you have to make sure that your baby's already tried raspberries and yogurt. And we hadn't touched on, you can also start dairy. You can start dairy at 6 months as well, so shredded cheese, full fat dairy, full fat yogurt, small little bits of cheese. Continue with yogurt, full fat yogurt. So not the 0% milk fat yogurt, you want the full fat yogurt. So mini goes are great. Can we product shout out? Is that bad? Or bad? Okay, mini goes are amazing. They taste like melted ice cream. So mini goes are good. I forgot what I was doing. Yes, 9 to 12. So frequency of the food. So when we were talking about 6 months, it's only once a day. It's really just to teach them how to eat. Now 7 to 8 months, you're doing it more like 2 or 3 times a day. And yeah, it's more like a mealtime at that point. They're still getting a lot of their mealtime stuff from breast milk and formula, but you're able to offer them different and more foods, and we're getting to the point of 9 to 12 months, which is time to chew. So when your baby can chew and pick up food and put it into his or her mouth and control. So it's the control of the mouth. So if they don't like it, they're able to spit it out and control the swallowing. And so they can hold a spoon and a cup. This is usually between 9 and 12 months. This is when you will start feeding 3-4 times a day. They'll be sharing meal times with you. Include them in meal times. That's about when you can start giving them the same thing that you're eating, but smaller, shredded up portions, so not like huge things, and not super spicy food or anything like that. You know what I mean? So be mindful. So serve family food that is grated, chopped, or in fine strips. Yeah.
All right, a few things to remember. If you're feeding your baby and you have jar food, do not feed from the jar, because first of all, it could be something in the jar that you don't know, like chunks of something. Sometimes there is recall. And so put it in the bowl. From there, you're looking at what you're feeding, and the child also sees the food. And also, if you feed from directly the baby and then you dig in the jar, you're contaminating the jar, and it's no good after. You have to throw it after. Other things also with those little, what people find those very practical, what you should be doing, feeding your baby directly from that is not very hygienic. And also your baby does not see the food. They don't have the stimulation of the eye to know what it looks like. Put it in some in the bowl, in the plate, and then they'll see the food and they can actually interact with the real food. Plastic is not real food. They don't know, their eyes is not informed. If you're making food and you want to keep it for a few days, in the fridge, if you're making some mash, maybe sweet potatoes, you can keep it in the fridge for a couple of days, fruits or vegetable, a couple of days, and you just take one portion that you're going to put on your plate and help and feed your child from that portion. If you have meat, 24 hours, they say, from the time it's cooked and prepped, that you should keep it. Don't keep it too long, because meat has protein and sometimes it spoils faster. If you want to keep it a longer time, use the freezer. You can put in ice cube trays, fill those ice cube trays up, label them carefully with the date and what they are, and you can have them later on. If you're like going out, you can keep that in little coolers. Remember though that your child is not going to feed baby food for the long time. Like, don't do too much, because then you'll be stuck with stuff you're not going to use. That's about it. Am I about it?
You know where to get a hold of us. You can call the center and you can talk to somebody, and we will give you all the information you need. There's also a ton of information available on the Ottawa Public Health website if you wanted to look.
Yes. So that was Bun in the Oven for this week. We'll see you next time, and stay connected.
Stay healthy.
That's right. Okay, then we go.